Cloud. Okay, hey everyone. So we're going to be talking about Beltane today, and I'm going to try to share my screen so we can make this easier. There we go. Okay, so let me get my photos up here. There we go. Okay, so this is a kind of a grainy picture, but I thought it would be a really pretty representation of what Beltane kind of encompasses, the coming of the sun, and of course the maypole, and that's very important to this season, one of the traditions. I remember when I was in 6th grade, we did a maypole dance around the flagpole. I had no idea what I was doing then, but I was actually practicing witchcraft in 6th grade. So that's kind of neat, that little snippet there. All right, so talking about, this is from outdoorapothecary.com. I just found this because I figured it would be a better way to talk about it instead of me just reading about it and you guys just listening. So this is a nice little thing that I found about the historic rituals and symbols. So our ancestors had rituals and ways for how to celebrate Beltane that seem to be tied to nature in nearly every way. Here are a few of the rituals and symbols of this seasonal celebration. So they lit special bonfires, and the flames, smoke, and ashes were deemed to have protective powers. It's said that the fire festival participants would lead their cattle around the bonfire and even sometimes leap over the fire's embers. And that would be to cast out any kind of spells or any kind of negative energy that would befall them in the winter and the dark months. They would put out all the fires in their household. Then they would relight them from the Beltane fire. They would like take a torch and then they would go home and relight the fires in their home with those. So the festivals and celebrations would be accompanied by feasts and food and drink. Okay. Food offerings from the feast would be made to the fairies or the elves in the Celtic cultures. Doors, windows, barns, and livestock would be decorated with yellow mayflowers, perhaps because they were reminiscent of fire. In parts of Ireland, people would make a maybush, typically a thorn bush or branch decorated with flowers, ribbons, bright shells, and rushlights. Holy wells were also visited, while Beltane dew was thought to bring beauty and maintain youthfulness. Another thing that I read out of Llewellyn's book on the Sabbats was that they would also roll around. The women would either go naked or scantily dressed and roll around on the grass to bathe themselves in the morning dew on Beltane, helping them maintain the beauty and the youthfulness. You would adorn yourself with a hair wreath or garland made of flowers and plants that bring you joy. This symbolizes your connection with the earth and your own inner power, sexuality, and abundance. So how we celebrate Beltane today. Some may wonder how to celebrate Beltane in today's modern world. If you're feeling called to celebrate Beltane but aren't sure where to start, look no further. It's a time for new beginnings, a time for rebirth, and you can celebrate it too. And here are just some of the ways. So that bothers me right there because there's a typo, but anyway, set up an altar, set up a Beltane altar, and fill it with the symbols of the special season. Think springtime, lots of greenery, and things that represent fertility, rebirth, and awakening. Flowers, they are a symbol of Beltane as they represent growth, fertility, and renewal. If you can't get your hands on any fresh flowers, incorporate flowers into your altar design with silk flowers, or even pictures of flowers will do. So candles. Honor the tradition of fire and light some candles in your altar. For Beltane, try to find candles in spring colors like pink or yellow, or floral scents like rose and lavender. The typical colors associated are red because of the fire, Green, yellow, gold are all good colors to use for your altar. Green is especially perfect for this time as it represents growth and renewal. And like I said before, red is symbolizing the fire and the passion. Gold is symbolic of the sun, a central theme for this Sabbath. Symbols. The maypole is the common symbol for Beltane and can be represented by drawing it on your altar cloth or creating your own mini replica. And we're going to go over that in a second. Have a bonfire.
I'm just going to throw this out. I just want to throw this out there real quick. I sent a message to the private chat. That's a Beltane article me and my co-founder wrote several years ago, explaining Beltane with history, longitude, latitude, all that stuff. If you want to share it too.
Okay, thank you. So for centuries, people have gathered to celebrate the Festival of Fire. What better way to celebrate than with a beautiful nighttime flame? You can also create fun and festive atmosphere with your own bonfire. The first step is to find a safe place to build your fire. Be sure to check local laws regarding open fires like burn bans and stuff before you start. It's also important to check, oh, right there, if there's a fire ban in your area. I get ahead of myself. So next, gather your wood and kindling. If you don't have access to wood, you can use newspaper, cardboard boxes, etc. The next step is to set up a ring of stones around your fire pit that sparks will not fly out of control and cause damage. The final step is lighting your fire. You can also use this as an opportunity to roast marshmallows or cook hot dogs over the flames, get together, So then you can go gathering flowers. For Beltane, the blossoms of spring have begun to fill the world with their scent. Decorate your home with fresh flowers and greenery, especially hawthorn roses or rowan. Fill your ritual space with fragrant blossoms and use them as crowns or garlands for yourself and others who are part of your celebration. Give thanks to Mother Nature for her blessings. Then you can make a flower crown or garland. And this is not as easy as it sounds because I made one for Ostara. But wear your favorite flowers and plants in a garland or wreath in your hair. This symbolizes your connection with nature and your own inner power, sexuality, and abundance. Now, if you don't have the capability of making a flower crown, you can simply adorn your hair with flowers. Dress in green. It's a time to celebrate the renewal and the life becoming fertility of the summer. Color green symbolizes growth and rebirth. Therefore, we wear green with the intention of bringing growth and fertility into our own lives. Perform a goddess ritual. And we'll be watching a little video shortly on that. I actually incorporated a ritual into this, this video. So one way to celebrate is to perform a goddess ritual. As you may have guessed, this ritual is focused on drawing the powers of the female energy. You can begin by performing a quick meditation, light a candle, sit quietly with your eyes closed. Imagine your body filling up with the light. Then imagine that light spreading out until it encompasses your entire home or your apartment. And you can even spread it out further to your community, the world, as far as you can imagine this circle going, okay? While you're meditating, think about the things in your life that bring you joy and about the people who are important to you. When you're finished, write down affirmations for your life in the coming season and then burn it as an offering. You can make your own maypole. Craft your own small maypole using found wood, colorful ribbons, and topped with a quartz point or beautiful gem for your collection or flowers. Place it on your altar. Prepare a May basket. In days past, as April rolled to an end, people would gather flowers and small goodies and put in baskets to hang on the doors of friends, neighbors, and loved ones on May 1st. And then you can prepare a Beltane feast. When people wonder how to celebrate Beltane, one of the easiest things is to cook a meal. Celebrating Beltane with a feast or family and friends is a wonderful way to honor this special time of year. Our ancestors celebrated life together with the rhythms of each season. Many of these celebrations were interwoven and connected to nature and Earth's natural cycles. Today, we celebrate our natural world and seasonal changes with intentional and meaningful celebrations that renew our joy in life and bring deeper meaning to our human existence. Since fire is so symbolic of this holiday, now is the perfect time to clean off your grill and cook over a live flame. You can cook your whole feast this way or just roast marshmallows over your bonfire. It's all delicious. Okay, so now we have a might-do list for Beltane. So the following stuff is things that I found that you can incorporate all of them. You can take one or two and do them however you wish. Okay. So this is making your own maypole. Now, today we have the luxury of finding these little types of things in dollar stores or whatever, little wooden discs or whatever. But just take it, how it resonates for you when we're watching this. Okay. So you're going to cut a piece of wood, drill a hole, and they put it off center, which is kind of weird, but drill a screw in to make a hole. Okay. So that's what it's going to look like. Then you're going to have a stick as well, and you're going to cut ribbon about an inch longer than the stick. Then you're going to drill a hole, if you can, into the end of it to open that hole so that it can accept the screw when you're going to go into the next step. Put a little bit of glue on the end of that where the hole is. Then you're going to affix it to the stick, and you're going to screw the screw through the bottom of that piece of wood up into that stick to secure it and anchor it. Then you've got it looking like this, and you've got all your ribbon there. So you're going to cut all the ribbons the same length as that first one that you cut. Then you're going to sew your ribbons together so that it winds up looking like that. So it can be like around the stick, the top of the stick. Then you're going to glue the top of the stick. And this is what they did. They took these flowers and they cut the stem off because there's nowhere for the stem to go. So it'll look like this when you put it on, and you can adorn it any way you want. Like if you remember that first picture that I had up, they had a little sun on the top. You can put whatever you want on the top here. Like they said, crystals or anything that you want on top to decorate it further. And then they put that little thing that they cut off just right in there on the top with some glue because there was nowhere for the stick to go. And that's basically what it winds up looking like. So that's like a mini maypole that you can put on your altar. And these are some other forms that they did. I thought those were really pretty. Now we're going to get into the feasts. Okay, so funny that I found this because I actually make this quiche, my own version of it, without the lamb's quarters. So it's basically lamb's quarters, and it has all this listed here. So, and I'm going to put all these up in all the chats like I usually do when I get done here. So basically it's the onion, the foraged mushrooms. You can get store-bought mushrooms is fine. The olive oil, the parsley, spinach, wild or bagged, eggs, the Munster, Monterey Jack, or cheddar. I personally use Swiss in mine, but a third cup of sour cream, pinch of salt, some pepper, and then it tells you here how to cook it. The lamb's quarters. I don't even think, did they put the lamb's quarters up here in the recipe? I don't think they did. I'm not, oh yeah, there it is. No. Oh, lamb's quarters are, oh my God, that is wild spinach. Okay, never mind. There's no meat in there. I was thinking it was lamb, my bad. Okay, so then this tells you the directions. And it just makes a nice quiche. I love quiche. And it's very light, and it's not hard to do. Quite easy, actually. Then we have easy honey fritters. These look amazing. Spice fried honey cakes are typical fare for Beltane celebrations. These are easy cinnamon and nutmeg spiced honey fritters. They were left in the garden to please fairy visitors. It's a delicious sweet fritters recipe for Beltane. So I'm just gonna, go through it. I'm not gonna read the whole recipe again because I'm gonna put it up so you can see it, but it's really easy. And then these are some notes on how to get the best results. But I like that last thing there. If you plan to leave an offering for the fairies, double the recipe to keep some for your family. Okay, and these look amazing. Lavender and lemon shortbread. So there's the recipe there. And this is from Outdoor Apothecary as well. Hang on just a second. I'm going to go back because the honey fritters are from cinnamonandcoriander.com. And the quiche was also from the outdoorapothecary.com. Want to make sure I'm giving credit where credit is due. Okay. And the thing is with those cookies, like I said, you can make them anytime. You can make them this weekend if you want to. It can be stored for several days in the fridge or several weeks in the freezer. You can make different shapes. It doesn't have to be a circle. You don't have to make it like a log. You can cut them into discs or different shapes. Even if you have like a cookie cutter of a sun, that would be amazing. Okay, so now I'm going to try my best to find that video. Where am I? Pinterest. Go in here. My stuff. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to visit here. What? No way. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? So now they're not going to let me find the page. Oh, this was so pretty too. Okay, well, if I can get that working, I will try somehow to put that link in the chat so that you can all find that. But so, I mean, what do you guys think about the Beltane celebration? How do you celebrate, and what ways, do you agree with those things or disagree with some of them?
And I miss actually celebrating any of our holidays with food and stuff. I stopped cooking a while back, and I gotta be honest, having the recipes there was a big help. I think I'm gonna be inspired again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I saw what Hannah put in the chat that Vimeo or Honey, it is awful for taking videos down randomly. Yeah, I mean, like literally, I just watched it last night and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing because this is an actual ritual that I can share so that everyone can see, because it's an important part of what we celebrate and how we celebrate. But I'll try to figure it out.
I gotta be honest, we wrote that article I sent over to the private chat like 8 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever. So I don't even remember most of it, but I was browsing it real quick because I knew when you said Beltane, I was like, well, we did one every single Sabbath. So
Right.
So I knew there was one there. I just had to go find it. But that page is an old page of ours, and I can't share from it using the Facebook app. I have to go all the way to a browser and stuff to find stuff and share. So,
yeah.
We don't have admin or anything anymore to it, but it's all there. It's still archived, so it helps,
Yeah. So, but it was really a nice thing that it was it showed what candles to use, and it actually went through what to say, and it was really pretty. And I'm just kind of like, oh, I wish I had it. And then there was another thing that I had. I can't remember where that went. I found another pretty thing with Beltane, the correspondences. Let me go back in here, and if I can find that, I'll share that, because that's kind of important. That's what I usually do, but this thing kind of said all about it. Let me see. Let's search here. Just give me a second. Okay. There it is. Photos. Let me see if that put into my photos, because if it did, then I'll share it in my photos. No, it didn't. Okay, so I'll just share it up here on the Pinterest page, so maybe you guys can see it. Let me go back to the screen sharing. And then we'll go over that real quick. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you guys see that picture?
Yes.
Okay, so these are of course, the dates. So it's around May 5th, but this year it's May 1st. And the funny thing is, so what happens, and that's part of that spell thing that I was going to try to share, but it begins on sundown on the 30th, and it ends on sundown on the 1st. Okay. So you actually are supposed to start celebrating it traditionally the night before. So the animals associated are bees, cat, cattle, dove, frog, goat, leopard, lynx, rabbit, swallows, and swan. Things you can decorate your altar with, like we kind of already talked about a little bit, but you can put acorns and antlers. Also baskets. We talked about the blooming flowers, but also herbs. We talked about the candles, a cauldron or a cup. We talked about the floral crowns and the May baskets and the maypoles and the wreaths. Okay, but crystals and stones we did not touch on. So they say beryl, emerald, garnet, malachite, rose quartz, and tourmaline are all good for Beltane. And we already talked about the colors and stuff. Herbs and flowers that you should associate with this: all heal, blessed thistle, broom, coriander, crocus, curry, daffodil, and dandelion, dragon's blood, fern, fireweed, flaxseed, forsythia, hawthorn, marjoram, meadowsweet, nettle, paprika, primrose, and rose, rue, snapdragon, tansy, tulips, violets, and woodruff. So it's a whole lot of different flowers that you can, and herbs that you can put in and mix up and stuff. The incense and oils, you want to use frankincense, jasmine, musk, peach, rose, vanilla, and lang lang. The trees associated, obviously, we already talked about hawthorn and rowan, but alder, ash, birch, hazel, holly, oak, and willow. I love that crown right there that they made. That's really pretty. Yeah. So
It's interesting that you say Woodruff, and that's the name of the street that's next to my street.
oh wow.
Yeah. I didn't know it was a flower.
Yeah. Maybe it does it flower at all? That's a street flower. Never mind. I thought you said a tree for a second.
Yeah, it's a street.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Just a street flower. That was funny. Well, sometimes. All right. So does anybody else have any input on what you guys do, or do you have any traditions in your families, or is this your first time celebrating it?
What I usually do is I have a set of candles for all the Sabbats. And so I'll burn the one for Beltane. I have incense for all the Sabbats, so I'll burn again the one for Beltane. I have Beltane tea, and I have Beltane oil to anoint myself. So this is a nice little celebration I do for myself because I'm limited in my mobility.
That's really good. And that's a good idea that what you just shared, to make it easier on yourselves. If you have like certain herbs, oils, and candles and stuff like that, you can make up like little goodie bags ahead of time. Those are things that don't go bad, and have a majority of your stuff already prepared, that you can just pull out and, say, okay, this is my Beltane celebration bag or kit or whatever. I like that. That's a good idea. Makes it a lot easier on our everyday hectic lives, and then you just get whatever else you want to get to incorporate. And, I think there could be easier ways, like we talked about with that looked like a very intricate way of making a maypole, but you can use your own adaptations to make them. So it's not, not everybody has a drill, not everybody has a hot glue gun, so
I think I'm inspired at this point to reach out to my Henderson County Pagans group and find myself a local Wiccan that is capable to start, preparing my holiday celebrations for me. I have a lot of trouble with, arts, crafts, and cooking when I drop everything, but I haven't celebrated the holidays since I got sick, really, and I think it's time I go back to that.
Yeah, really honoring is the whole part of it. Honoring our ancestors, honoring those who came before us, and giving thanks to the gods and goddesses that correspond. And it's just so amazing. When you do those kind of things, you receive those miracles that in just everyday life, and you might not realize it, but let's see here.
I think tradition is so important for us, tradition and ritual is so damn important for pagans, and I've kind of fallen out of a lot of the celebrations, and so I need to get back to that. That's important.
Definitely. Honey said in chat, I don't remember what I did last year, but it was just a little thing. This year I plan on doing something a bit more, maybe making those cookies. Yes, those cookies look delicious. And Bree said, I add dandelion, sage, and dragon's blood to my bonfire and cleanse my energy through ash smearing. Oh my God, that is perfect. And Honey also said, I also actually have a maypole you made for Christmas and Yule one year. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So, I mean, if you have like the actual pole, you can take it and you can change it for the seasons with the color corresponding ribbons, and have that as just a decoration to celebrate, put different flowers on it and stuff. And that's a really neat idea. But just a little story I'm going to share with you real quick, what happened with me just the other day. And I wasn't even, yes, Brandy, I'm definitely going to post all those images into the coffee club, and I'll put it into the DiviNation Facebook page as well. So
thank you.
You're welcome. You'll have all those. So I planted an avocado tree the other day, and well, actually my husband planted it because I couldn't use the shovel, but we put it in, and I got my moon water and I put it in a clockwise motion, and I said a prayer to Freya and Gaia, because that, coming into the season here for that. And then I closed it out. Now I have a tomato plant that has been just kind of withery and kind of laying on the floor, and I keep having to pick it up and put it on this little bucket that I have next to it so that it doesn't just lay down. And so I came out the next morning, my tomato plant was standing straight up and flowering.
That's amazing.
Believe that? I was in shock. And also that same night, because this happened the night of the full moon, the day after the full moon. So I went out and I did my full moon, because I am backwards. I do on the full moon, I do my new beginnings, and on the new moon, I do my releasings. And I found quite a few people do it that way too, that I know, and it just works for me. So I went out and I did my full moon, and I said my manifestations, and I, gave my blessings to Celine. And then I just came out, and it's so funny. So I don't know, between all of those, what happened. And one of my manifestations was that my avocado tree and my plants would grow and be fruitful. And then that next morning I woke up and the flowers are blooming on the tomato. That never happened. There was nothing on them, and it was standing straight up. I was in shock, and I'm like, was that the fairies? Was that the goddesses? Whatever, blessed be and thank you. So I left my offerings to them. it's amazing. I mean, you just can't explain it. There's no explanation for that.
When you're talking about giving honor to our ancestors, one of the things that I noticed that I am learning with a year-long teaching with Stone Circle Wicca is that we also honor our descendants.
Yes.
To come.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Blessing. Yeah, we can't forget to the ones who are unborn yet. That's true. Carry my blessings down to future generations. You can definitely add that into it. Wow. Yeah. You're right. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just, it's just one of those in between holidays, but it's still so very important. And, a lot of people just want to do the big things on the big Sabbaths, and some of these little ones kind of get lost in the mix. But again, it's like I said, when I was in 6th grade doing this, I had no idea. I had no idea where it came from, what the traditions were. I was just a 6th grader dancing around a maypole in a dress and having fun. But it's so funny how it all came full circle. So, do you guys do anything growing up or anything like that? Did your schools incorporate anything like that? That you could think that
my school, we I think we had a maypole as well. And we were, doing the ribbons, cutting the ribbons and putting them on there, and then intertwining the dance between them, It's very pretty at the end.
Yeah. And I just vividly remember, going, you have to go like in and out between each other. Like you would go inside, and then the next person you would go outside, and the next person you would go inside, so that it would make that pretty braid. Yeah. And then when you get done, you're just having fun. And then you look up at it and it's just this beautiful braided pole. So, let's see. Anybody else put anything in chat? Let me check here. Let's see. Bree put, my daughter and I braid ribbons in our hair and wrap the kids' arms with them. And we have a dance party in our yard. That is so awesome. Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, definitely. That is one thing you can do too. Incorporate the braids and the ribbon into your braids. Like if you do braids in your hair, I actually thought about telling my daughter-in-law to do that. If the kids, I think the kids, I have to check on, I don't even know what day is May 1st this year. Let me look. That is on a Monday. So I'm gonna, I think I'll ask my daughter-in-law if she'll just put ribbons in their braids, because they love to wear braids. And then Honey put, I vaguely remember a maypole at my grandpa's house one year and all the grandkids danced around. Yeah. I mean, and it's so funny when we think back to things that we didn't realize and that were in our culture and in our environment. And like, I go back and I think about my mom, and she had all kinds of like, her things that she liked to collect were teapots and, what was it? She had a lot of like teapots and, birdhouses and stuff like that. And I'm thinking back to how that natural, it's like she had that witchy kind of thing about her. It's so funny because I remember when I would go play bingo with her, she would run her hands over her bingo cards like she was casting a spell on them. And I got into the craft after my mom passed away, so I had no way of asking her about that, or seeing if she had any feelings about being a witch or my family history or anything like that, going back. So, and Bree says, I was taught the maypole is a symbol for interconnectivity of each living thing and harmony it is capable of. Yes, that is actually exactly right. It's everything, it's all connected. Yep. Okay.
You may want to also check out the lilacs that come like here, middle of May to the end of May, and the fragrance is just incredible. And there's beauty in that flower too, as well, the tree.
Definitely. And that's another thing, like we did last time, when we were talking about all the teas and stuff, and you can make intention tea with the flowers that we discussed and the herbs and like the spices and stuff. Usually it's this time of the year they want to have like those floral teas. So that lilac would be really good. Lavender, all those kind of things. Rose hips kind of thing. Put that in there. And yeah, I mean, just whatever you do, and when you're doing any of these recipes, make sure while you're cooking and while you're doing it, when you're stirring your intentions into the recipe, when you're mixing your stuff, keep those thoughts in. And it's amazing when you do that, the food tastes so much better because it's made with that love and that intention. And that you give that to your family or you give that to your friends, and then they eat it, and that carries on those blessings to them. And that's the whole purpose of why we do it. So yes. Oh, whose picture is that? That's really pretty. Paul. Oh, hey, Paul. Oh, it's okay. We were just talking about Beltane,
I'm sorry. It's been a really hectic day, and I literally just got in, and I'm like, okay, now it's relatively quiet. Had I tried to get on 20 minutes ago, all you'd have heard is screaming and laughing and joking and people being happy.
That's good, though. Well, I'm glad you came from that environment. That's awesome. So we were just actually getting ready to close it down. We have about 10 minutes left. So with your wisdom, I would love to hear what you usually do on Beltane. We've already gone over everything and it's being recorded, but I would love to hear your input on it.
Okay, so, crikey. Okay, Beltane. What do we normally do for Beltane? Oh, crikey, what don't we do for Beltane? Baking, cooking, putting together gift baskets for friends and families. When I was back in the UK and practicing, we would often. I had a farmer friend of mine that was a practicing pagan. And what we would do is we would do the cattle drive, where what we would do is we would bring the cattle in from the field. But what they'd do is they would pass in between two fires, which is an old Celtic Celtic religion, basically cleansing cleansing the animals, ready for spring, because obviously springtime is the time of rejuvenation, shall we say. In the past, I've done fire walking, walking over the hot coals, the maypole thing, although obviously I can't really put up a maypole here. We do have we do have a miniature one that's probably about, I don't know, 8 inches, maybe a foot in height, that we normally put out, and we'll spend some time, instead of dancing around it, we'll pass the small ribbons around it. It's got like ribbons and wool.
Yes, I did put thing up, and we went over how to actually make one of those. And that's on the in the recording here.
Oh, sweet. What else do I do? Fertility rituals. A little bit of sex magic. Here's a curious question for you, and you've probably already covered this, but where does Beltane come from?
I think I did cover it when we were talking, but I'm not actually sure what the
It comes
actual.
from the Celtic goddess Beltane,
Yes. Okay.
the goddess of fire.
Okay. Gotcha.
And they normally used to light the fires at the beginning of May, because that was, between the equinoxes and everything else. It sounds like you've got all that covered. So yeah, a little bit of baking. As I came in, you were talking about stirring in your intentions. What I will typically do is, if I'm baking at home, and I know this, you know how they say you go clockwise to stir in intention and anti-clockwise to put negative or to take away the negative?
Yes.
What I will typically do is, anything I'm using, I'll wash first, but I'll wash away the negativity by going anti-clockwise or
Yes.
counterclockwise.
In the straight. Yeah.
And when I dry it off and take away all the last bit of water with a hand towel type thing, kitchen towel.
Yeah.
And I do that clockwise, so I'm putting my intention back into it. And I typically do that anyway when I'm cooking, even if the stuff's clean. It normally get rid of the negative and put into the positive. And you're right, it does. I don't care what you say. It does improve the quality of the food.
And that's what I talked about. It tastes better. It just, there's something about it. I've noticed since I've started doing it and putting my intention in my food, that there's just some different to it, and I mean,
I think my grandson summed it up the other day. I did some homemade marinade on some pork chops that I did out on the grill. And he turned around to me afterwards and he's like, "You know what, Pappy? That was absolutely magical."
Yeah.
It just made me laugh, because I make a point when I'm out on the grill, if I'm basting or if I'm putting any marinade on with the brush, I'll actually draw a pentagram on there. And he always says that when Pappy goes out on the grill, it's truly magical. And I always chuckle to myself, and my wife's like, always sits there with a grin on her face, because we always sit down. We make a point. The main meal of the day, we sit together as a family. Our kitchen's too small for us to have a kitchen table, but we all sit down and have at least one meal a day as a family. So that's our bonding time. And then we're like, okay, I don't like you anymore.
Right.
Disappearing into my room. So we try to have at least one meal together as a family. But yeah, May 1st is normally pretty busy here. Getting ready, putting together gift baskets for people. We normally make sure there's some hawthorn in there, because obviously hawthorn is associated with Mayday and Beltane.
Yes.
And we use that for decoration, but please be careful with hawthorn. If you treat it wrong, it can actually give you a really bad stomach, and
Yeah.
it can be a little bit on the dodgy side. So just use it for decoration. Unless you know how to prepare it properly, don't use it in food.
Okay. Bree said, as a kitchen witch herself, this is done with anything I cook that isn't rushed. LOL. And then Janae said, thank you for class, going to work now. We'll watch the replay. Happy holidays, everyone. You too, Janae.
Good night. But yeah, that's typically what we'll do. Because I live in the city now, and there's a fire ban even in place now. Plus, my landlord doesn't allow fire pits. What we normally do to get around that is we'll normally take a cluster of the church candles out there and use that as our fire.
Yeah.
And obviously, we always make sure we give food to the land, salt to the water, race to the air. And we're normally out there barefoot, so we're connected to the earth as well. So earth, air, fire, and water, we cover all elements, or we try to.
Right. All the elements working together.
Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
mention something? That Beltane is actually on the opposite of the wheel of the year, where Beltane is full of life, and the opposite is Samhain, which
Yep.
is actually represents death. So it's the opposite.
Yep. And definitely.
Yeah,
And
depending on where you are in the world as well, you've got to remember we celebrate Beltane on the 1st of May. Normally in the southern hemisphere, I believe it is November 21st that they celebrate Beltane, because their seasons are obviously completely different.
right.
Yeah.
And that correlates with our Samhain, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah.
So our Samhain is their Beltane. I mean, all of the festivals are obviously, the wheel of the year stays the same. It just depends whereabouts in the world you are and what climate you're under.
Right.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
southern hemisphere, it's the opposite to what it is on the wheel of the year to what we are in the northern hemisphere.
Right. That is so weird how
I'm
that.
so sorry I missed everything today and came in right at the end, but
It's okay. It's recorded, Paul, and I thank you for joining us because I always love your input. Definitely respect the wisdom of you and Andrea and anybody else who's been doing this for years and years and years. Alex, of course, with her youth, but she has a lot of wisdom behind that youth. But it's really nice to hear
that lady still teaches me stuff every single time I have an in-depth conversation. I end up learning something, which is why I've always said I am forever the student.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So we'll go ahead and close it out for today. Thank you all for joining. And I'm going to stop recording, but we can stay and talk after. Okay. So I'm going to stop recording now.